So gonna read some documents I was given. Don't remember button. But I got some paper and I gotta read it, so that's an important thing to do. I am mildly dismayed that I didn't go swimming this morning. But on the flip side, I am very proud of myself for the other things that I've accomplished, which are many, in fact. On the plus side, I'm in town a heck of a lot earlier than I would normally be, so that's good. I think that's going to help me get to where I have to be in a timely fashion, and it also guarantees that I don't have to rush, which is positive. Also, I was saying the other day, don't drive like this. Look, Ma, I'm a Tesla. Whee! I'm just kidding. I'm not a Tesla. I'm a human being. It'd be really ironic if, like, what we call autism was actually, like, in large part genetic as well, but, like, if it could be precipitated symptomologically over time in people with, that was really good product placement, totally accidental, with, like, trauma, or if, like, trauma precipitates autism-like features. Same with what's it called? ADHD, or what we call ADHD. Hitting a huge ass pipe. Anyway, I'll be right back. Okay, well, I'll be right back. Hello. Bad. I'm not sure how I feel about a deconstructed sandwich. I feel like stuff with rice needs to have, like, I think it's the cheese that's throwing me off, to be honest. Especially because on a sub, it melts naturally. I guess technically you should have 29 grams of protein. If there's should have 29 grams of protein if you got the same sandwich. Gotta be careful when driving down Main Street in Smithers, man. It's busy and lots of folks are about. And you don't want anybody darting in front of your vehicle because, you know, that's how accidents happen. One thing I can say is that this smells flippin' delicious. I can say that with a high degree of certainty. It is very good smelling. So maybe I'll do a pantomime. I'm gonna take a look inside to see what it looks like in there, and then I'll decide how I'm gonna set this up. So I'm really excited to do my reading. Let this gentleman behind me depart, because he's got places to go and things to do. Oh, ye old three-pointer. BRB.
what a conundrum. It's a good thing these boots aren't leaking. The beaking is worth including alone. No, fair enough. It's one of those things where like I tend not to talk a huge amount in my lives.
Yeah.
Except for when I do. And
Oh yeah.
I think it's really funny to have that like juxtaposition of like sometimes there's talking, sometimes they're not, and there's something also funny about it being a pantomime.
Yeah.
Because then it leaves, because like I don't have any viewers, like I don't got bitches and I don't got viewers, right?
Yeah.
So it's like anybody who's truly interested in it probably wouldn't show up on my view counter anyway. I think that makes it kind of funny for them to not be able to listen to the audio either synchronously or asynchronously.
Yeah.
Whether or not they could actually override the mic mute, I don't actually know. But I'd imagine it's probably saved as like a concurrent stream. Anyway, point is, that's just, but yeah, it was not present. And
Yeah, that's wild.
I was
A lot of the biggest
just
noise
watching
makers
it.
are not present.
What's that?
A lot of the biggest noise makers are not present.
That's staggering, honestly. Like I don't understand. I just at like surface value, I don't understand how people can argue against a warm and safe space for people to park themselves at night.
Because the original, I'm stoked because fucking it spreads out the
Well,
problems,
fucking-
you know, and it forces those, like, the people who are raising the biggest voice are super, super rich people in town.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's great. You're forced to look at it now.
The
They're all like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, the throughway for kids to walk to school. It's like, what the fuck do you think
Take a
the
different
library is?
avenue.
You
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah. What?
you know, like I send my kids to the library.
Well,
Fuck.
and town hall, like the part that I find funny is they're talking about, like, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but they're basically saying, like, oh, it's going to ghettoize places, and I'm concerned about Alfred, and it's like, you're already concentrating people in one spot in the first place. And then the greatest irony that I found, which was painful to me, honestly, was talking about how, well, if it's located at this other place, then it's going to be a slightly longer walk, but it's going to be better for everybody in the town, which, like, translation, it's going to be better for the sake of gentrification and earning more money, and, you know, like, keeping real estate values up or whatever else. And it's like, you literally decided to hold a town hall meeting that was an emergency meeting of town hall on the other end of town from the impacted population, who ought to be able to be present and speak to the issues and conditions that they live in.
Yeah,
And that, to me, was incredibly hypocritical and absurd.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I found it unfortunate for that reason.
Yeah.
My apologies, sir. I'm just doing a YouTube live and we're having a conversation about local politics. So.
What have you been doing?
Good.
Good. Did you go to the town hall last night?
I did not.
You avoided it, eh?
No, I didn't avoid it. I just didn't go. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I would have gone had it been more.
Did you watch it?
Well, I didn't even know it was online.
Yeah, they do live streams for all the town council stuff now.
Did it?
Yeah, and this one was, it wasn't, yeah, because it wasn't at the town hall, was it? It was at a church.
Was it
Yeah.
the old church? Yeah.
Christian
It
Reform.
wasn't at the old church, it was the
Christian Reform.
Oh, the big one.
Yeah.
And it was super well attended, but they could have held it at Della Herman.
Yeah.
Bigger even, where people could have arrived. And then it wouldn't have been, like, denominationally exclusive and kind of cliquey. Like, I don't think that Smithers is cliquey, first and foremost. But, like, there's something to be said about arguing against preventing human popsicles in a gym adjacent to an enormous church.
So, how did the debate go? Was it a debate?
It wasn't as bad as
Just a Q&A?
people thought it was gonna be, you know, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Edward was actually there, so he'd be able to speak better to it, but
I was late.
I didn't go to it because I thought it was just gonna be a bunch of, you know, angry people brandishing torches, you know, kind of thing, but apparently it was pretty, you know, there was people who spoke up in favor of it, and, you know, it wasn't just, you know, angry, mindless, you know, get rid of the population kind of thing, right? It was just like, hey, this is a solution, this is
That
what we're
was functionally
trying to do.
what it
Yeah.
kind of was
Yeah.
for some people, but
Which is a lot better than I thought it was going to be when, you know, people were asking me if I was gonna go, and I was like, no, it's gonna be one of those yelling town halls. So, 'cause I don't know if you saw the one in Terrace, but that one was terrible.
Oh.
Oh yeah, it was 2 years ago where they had a very similar issue, and it was terrible. They had to haul people out, like RCMP had to come and get angry old men out of there, because they were just being so racist, and so like, F this population, put them out into the cold and let them die. It was just like, you know, and I was just, yeah.
wow.
Terrace is slightly, I don't know, Terrace has some characters.
Slightly more MAGA.
Yeah, like there was a guy, they're out of business.
It's not exclusive to MAGA, and dismissing it under one political umbrella that's like the flavor of the month is not going to benefit anyone. Sorry
They,
to interrupt.
you know, remember Mumford's? Mumford's restaurant. You remember Mumford's?
No.
No,
What was
it
that?
was on the end of town in Terrace, like
Yeah.
right before you went to Kiskale kind of thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful buildings, incredible hamburgers, really good food. And then the owner was like, we should just do what they did in the olden days, and he put a poster, a Photoshop poster of the homeless people on the train tracks and a CN train with a cow thing on it. And it's like, you are, and his mom was a town councilor as well. It's like, you are a massive representative of the city and you're doing shit like this? Holy. But there are business down, so.
So my understanding was that it was mostly one business owner in particular.
Yeah, one business family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Terrace or here?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
They built
Yeah.
that new facility there. And his tenants would be looking straight down.
Yeah.
I was stunned learning that that's
Well-
a $3 million piece of real estate,
Sure.
which has now apparently been devalued to 1 million, but like, thank goodness for market corrections.
That's, yeah.
I do feel
I think it is
sorry for the
hyperbolic,
couple
too.
that's selling their house across the street. Because they bought sort of at the peak, they're just a young couple, and they bought at the peak kind of real estate time, and then they put a lot of work into the house and a lot of money into it, and now they're selling it with that across the street.
That's shitty.
You know,
They're
yeah,
selling
But-
with.
Well, it's only shitty because they
because
put
of that,
money
or
into
they're
it.
selling-
No. no,
it's
it was
totally-
just there, yeah, totally. Absolutely separate, and they, so I feel slightly bad for that, right? Like, it's just, they put hard work in, and it's gonna have, negative, impact, whatever it is, publicity, whatever. But yeah, the Woodstras,
Could also be.
they were upset with it, but then Sharon Hartwell put out some pretty bad misinformation.
She didn't help us.
Yeah, so she didn't show up.
She didn't show up, of course not, because that would be political.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? But it was turned into a political issue
You're
by
all sitting
virtue of.
here?
Let's sit at the end of
Thank you,
this
sir.
table.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. You guys having coffees today?
Yep.
Americanos, espressos, hot chocolate with whiskey,
And we're going to go pantomime version now.
cappuccinos?
'cause
Okay.
Why would that?
William, how about you? Americano?
So it was basically about the lies that have been told by the ministry and the fact that we've largely capitulated to really poor business practices when it comes to protecting forests, and not just in the context of old growth, but I mean, I'd have to look at some of my notes, but like,
Yeah.
the government tells lies about hemlock and how it can be processed. Some of the waste piles are big enough to be processed for an entire summer if they were actually treated properly at the right facilities. There were also issues with that were brought up with regards to how the province has resorted to clear cuts in regions where it would be far better suited to selectively log, or like instead of just an entire swath, like kind of
I'll work
cutting
on
out
that.
specific spots, because that would maintain mid canopy growth.
You get your tickets?
There was a lot of that kind of conversation just to basically question like what Premier Eby is really doing. Eby, sorry. And kind of the irony of the juxtaposition of
Can we pick up on it?
continuing to pursue really failed policies and alleging a commitment to sustainability. That's probably the best way to kind of summarize the dialogue. I also have some reading that I'm stoked to do from it. So
Curious to know why they did that in November. Nobody's around.
I think it's to be timed with a bunch of other places that are doing it. So there's been protests, I think, either Vancouver or Victoria. There was a big row at the Ledge, I think.
Worse than that. You feel all special.
And it's meant to be timed and coordinated just to as a show of solidarity. Oh, I also learned, this is crazy, the VPL collected in 1 year more fines from late fees than the BC government did from infractions of forestry legislation. The Vancouver Public Library.
Oh. Hell yeah. Late fees.
So the VPL collects more money in late fees.
No.
Allegedly, unless this was misinformation being spread by
Big compliance and enforcement.
a person.
Trying too hard at it.
No, I think you're partially there, but realistically, no.
I'm going off of somebody who works in the context, way above my pay grade. Way above my pay grade. So don't come for me, come for the messenger.
Oh,
That's
I'm not
not.
coming for you. I'm just saying, the line sounds really good, so it's probably not necessarily accurate.
Sounds just as good as an experimental safe supply site. So if folks in our community are bandying around lies, then that's on them.
The wild part is they already have some supplies down.
But you're right, the building was dark. There was nobody in the.
Most of my work colleagues were probably working from home. We've been warned not to show up to work from home.
Oh, really?
It's not worth the confrontation.
Not worth the what, sorry?
Not worth the confrontation.
Oh. It was a.
Plus the province thinks personal safety really.
I was the youngest person there by probably at least a decade, so I don't really think anybody else, like, of anybody to pose a potential threat, I probably would have been the greatest. And I'm not a particularly bellicose individual, so.
You can't anticipate that though by a press release, right? So what the province usually does is they warn their staff ahead of time. And they just put key personnel in place, so people that can actually address the questions that are being asked are usually there. But nobody was there?
There were 2 or 3 vehicles in the primary parking lot
Yeah.
on the front facade of the building.
Yeah.
All the windows were dark across the structure. So,
Well, I mean, the ministry's in there in support of the forest industry.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I don't disagree with,
You know, we both work for the forest service, or used to.
I don't disagree with anything you said. I mean, but there's always, in every argument, there's a certain amount of truth, and then there's a lot of facts being unfortunately distorted.
That's fair.
It's just like this, you know, like the event that occurred at Town Hall yesterday, right? A lot of truth,
well, the Christian Reformed Church,
a lot
but
of Christian culture. A lot of truth and some distortion
emergencies.
of the fact of the truth.
They're certainly not in place to be protectors of the forest, that's for sure.
No,
no.
no, that's not the mandate.
No, that's enforcers, if they had to abide by the letter of their, it's their oath. They don't be in jail.
Well, I don't think it's shame.
Well, you know what I
I don't
mean.
consider it. No, I'm not a forester, but I mean, in any oath is like, yeah, you're basically, you're primed. You're responsible to the public before anybody else.
I don't think that's what that.
No, but they're taught, they're doing.
That's not how any entity is run.
Sustainable forestry has been
Why?
it's also the basis of all, every university course in the province goes along with that.
if you're harvesting at a sustainable level in this province, that would probably be reduced by half. If you factor in.
Well, everything that has to be factored, it has to be factored.
Pesticides, wildfire.
You know what has to be factored in now, in use, was,
Welfare loss?
cumulative effects.
No.
And,
Yeah.
climate.
Or with respect to the waste and the waste piles, there is a penal system in place that if you leave too much waste, it's big issue.
So,
I used to be a licensed waste and refuse surveyor. And there really wasn't that much waste out there. You go and pick through these piles and look at what would actually be millable. Because the fines are pretty severe. And in the case of a major licensee, it goes against your life. So nothing is in their best interest to leave waste. A lot of it looks like waste, and when you get out and explain it, it's like, well, that can't go through a mill for these reasons.
but it's not just millable, well, two things about that. It's not just millable wood that's of utility, like artisans could make use of a lot of the stuff for different structures. I mean, that's not millable wood. The shelf over there, but
When I worked on the coast, we're doing that, particularly with yellow cedar cypress.
oh, cool.
It was being reduced to shape blocks, going out for furniture and guitars.
Oh, wow.
And that was 30 years ago, so, and it's high value product, so they don't need it, they don't have to. The other thing to consider is that for a product company is paid to have that tree fallen, moved to a landing, processed, is paid for that. Usually it's left in the woods. So
Oh, and you mean,
but to then dump it into a waste pile and have it burned, it's not in their best interest either, because they're just pouring money away. So, I don't think there's too much waste out there. There's a lot of stuff that hits the ground and explodes. There's a lot of, once it actually gets fallen, you realize how much decay is in there.
There were also reports of, or I guess allegations that when a lot of these waste piles have been checked, dirt has been covering them, and so it's actually hard to do anything in terms of inspection because a large proportion of what is actually there isn't even necessarily accessible, or the piles appear to be smaller than they actually are. And it's hard to discern what the composition of them actually are.
Well, I remember being involved in a process where we even brought a machine back and took all these piles apart because we had the same argument discrepancies. We had a log loader up there pulling the piles apart and measuring. So we did a lot of that.
Was that published?
You all done next year?
Probably.
All right, pal.
I'm sure.
Peer reviewed?
oh, yeah, the reports are
Barrick's probably done studies on it.
annual. There's the cane way, there's, lots of.
See you later, buddy. You're back
Probably
here
not.
again.
Most of the issues you're running into is lack of
Yeah,
staff
we're gonna
and funds.
chill until 3 or we're coming until 3. I don't have to go
In terms of-
today, so you can.
So it's not a willful thing,
Yeah.
it's more of a,
What?
That being said, Forest Service sure, they aren't angels in terms of protecting.
Yeah. You know why? And my daughter had it on when I went to work
I was never a
yesterday,
big fan, even though I worked for them.
and it's hanging up on my fucking door.
There was also a thing about
Yeah.
German and Japanese climate auditors coming to look at the piles and look at the pellet industry. And they basically ended up finding that the practices that are being executed in the province aren't up to snuff with regards to what they would do domestically,
In terms of,
in terms of what they would be doing domestically abroad for us, domestically for them. And as a result of that, they didn't want to have a stake or involvement in those pellet projects here.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, buddy.
I'll tell you,
Have a good one.
for every argument, particularly on the West Coast, that
Yep.
needs to fall or around for a day and have a discussion, which I've done. And they'll tell you how they could fall through safety, they'll kill themselves, why they have to do it a certain way. And yeah, there's gonna be some waste because of it. But that's the only way to get the tree to ground. I don't expect some guy to put his life at risk,
Nor do I. I think
but it's steep, rocky terrain.
so. Sorry to interrupt with that. I guess my number one objection to that is basically if meeting sustainability commitments would mean doing less of the forestry,
2:30 technically, but I don't have to
then
get today, so you can.
it behooves us to question what kind of terrain we ought to be
You wanna go chill or
extracting
around
it.
or grab some
And
whatever you need, I can cover it until
if
then.
the waste is proportional to the severity and intensity of the terrain, then that to me would indicate that like there's a direct relationship there that we need to be questioning why we're doing that. And moreover, it's a pain in the ass to plant in that kind of terrain. So you're getting horrible return on investment when as a firm you're paying people to reforest certain regions and you're getting a very low I guess like viability of the seedlings. So you're getting wasted seedlings. It's brutal for the workers who are doing the work. And the biggest reason that that's a problem is because you've improperly managed and logged things for 20 years prior, and you have a monoculture that's been absolutely destroyed by mountain pine beetle, which was reported by scientists literally 20+ years ago. It's that breakdown in everything. Like I'm not advocating for anybody placing themselves in any sort of danger when it comes to employment. Labor movements have fought far too hard for that to be the case. So, and it shouldn't have been the case in the first place, which should go without saying. But that to me is really, if you're getting like almost an exponential increase, because it's probably not linear with regards to what the topology is like, I don't see why you would continue doing that if there's so much waste, if it's super hard on the workers, and if it's not as accessible for laborers either.
One of the, every time there's an area set aside for protection, that means that volume of timber within a license has to be taken somewhere else. And this is a big complaint from industry, and I'm not saying it's right, but this is a big complaint, because we're being forced in some of these steep, nasty, dangerous to log terrain, because the protected areas pushed us there. There's vast argument from them, including their workers, that, and it's usually valley bottoms, right? Valley bottoms are easier to log, flatter, but they also contain rivers and streams
Riparian
to be
habitats,
protected,
yeah.
riparian areas, and they've been pushed out of there to higher terrain.
Yeah, well, most of our parks are rocketized. Most of the parks in this province are fine.
But, and that's why we've got a lot of heli logging now, right?
That's all it can do, that's all dictated by your, but, you know, it's a very complex. It's not comparing Japan and Germany to British Columbia, they liquidated their natural forests years and years ago. They're working on it.
So then wouldn't they?
They're managed land.
They're the definition of monocultures.
They're also, they're the same area as British Columbia with 20 times population. You want to talk about managed forest? Germany is a prime example. They've named all the bears.
They what? Sorry.
They've named all the bears that are left.
Oh yeah.
They're not actually. I had a friend of mine who's a forest guy from Nuremberg. He said, yeah, in the area where I work in the Black Forest, it's like, yeah, it's fluffy and duffy.
Isn't
It's not what you consider
isn't that just even more of a cautionary tale for what we ought not to do here?
Absolutely. It is a tale for, you need to sequester a substantial portion of your land use.
I heard about the 30 by 30 today. So 30% of our land base, which is troubling because we also need to be preserving 30% at least of our aquatic regions by 2030.
Yeah.
And we are well behind that by about a factor of 2. So we basically need to be vastly increasing the rate.
Have we reached 15% yet?
I don't think so.
I don't think we have. I think we're sitting at about 13, 12.
Yeah. So, I mean, the other question too is, and I am not the person to answer this, but over how long has that been able to improve, and when is it going to be bettered? And I think if you look at general trends of conservation and what the, I guess, like, relative pattern of legislation and policy and whatnot, it's not keeping pace whatsoever. I mean, we're so far behind on climate goals. Millennium Development Goals have been a joke for at least a decade. And that was meant to be like, ooh. So it's like, it's all a joke to the people in power because our political system has zero proportional representation. We have very little say in what actually transpires in our forests, in our fisheries, in our mines. And there was a critique made today at the ministry office about how protesters and activism is largely the same kind of practice. And there was a mention in my paraphrasing of basically decolonizing activism practices. But it's also important to note, I think, that the legislative frameworks and the policy frameworks that are being applied are just being strengthened by government to benefit corporations. So what more can we really do as a populace when any legal objection in courts ends up getting thrown out or severely diminished, when injunctions are filed and honored all the time, relatively speaking, when 75 or 80% or something like that of projects end up being authorized, and when you have a second phase of Red Chris Mine being discussed enthusiastically when there are such severe deleterious effects from phase 1, and when realistically all of these companies end up budgeting for paying infractions instead of improving their practices or investing in capital expenditures to better their effluent management.
Because it's cheaper.
Exactly. And
So
that's...
the problem is with the legislation. But the basic, The
and how
basic
we
problem is
conceive of
with-
capitalism.
The problem is with capitalism, but in our system of governance, which basically, the current party that whatever is in power, its prime objective is to
Stay in
remain
power.
in power.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna do that by getting a bunch of people laid off because their mills are closed. And that's ultimately, that's the issue right there. Because anything we do is gonna mean a reduction in harvesting, and therefore a reduction in milling, and a reduction in all the activities that go along with it. And I'm not saying that you are wrong, but that's what's keeping those companies. They will go to the last stick of timber, and they have.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we're trying to avoid, and that's what
PVD guest.
really begs the question of
Password
at what point is
PVD
enough enough?
2023,
Like realistically, we talk so much about the
Yeah, welcome
statistics
to our
behind the raw resource extraction and the rate of extraction. We talk about the tonnage of whether it's plants or rocks or fish. But what we don't talk about is the decamillion, the centimillion, the extraction of finance from the province. And I think that what we need to start doing is largely shifting the dialogue to how much are we being hosed as a province? Because it's a very non-trivial matter. And I think that if citizens started to understand how they have been seeing such a reducing proportion of the profitability of these projects and of these practices, and the fact that the practices have been diminishing in profitability themselves by virtue of the diminishing of the quality of the natural resources, I think that things would start to shift. And I recently, with no shade and respectfully, I had a conversation last week with, I won't name positions or names, but involved with the Telka Coal project. And to be told by an individual in their position of authority, knowledge, and education, in a what I would characterize as slightly dismissive manner, to give numbers when I say that our salmon stocks have been diminished. And then I have to start quoting studies from the last decade, even though it's readily available information within the field of environmental studies and within the field of conservation, which should be on the docket of anybody doing technical work in this province, period, full stop. About a 90% reduction in salmon stocks, about the biomass being reduced by 20 to 30% because of the ubiquity of hatcheries. Obviously it's species dependent as well, but like relative to benchmarks that thankfully somehow exist from last century. Like, these are the kinds of things that are hugely problematic and are also being ignored repeatedly. In a similar conversation that I had on the same day, to hear people with a scientific and technical background be so dismissive about the effects of a 1,050 hectare project that's going to have a spillway that terminates directly into Wedson Kwa, pursuant to policies and frameworks put in place by the province, which are archaic and antiquated as all heck, to prevent ground infiltration of overflow, and to basically say that this project isn't going to substantially impact relative to what has happened in the entire, for lack of a better term, I guess, like reef of extraction around this zone, and to say that it's going to be negligible. It's like, yes, everything is negligible, but when you take compounding and cumulative effects, it is no longer negligible. And I mean, I am thankfully on a soapbox, so I don't feel particularly terribly about speaking this much about it, but this is also the first opportunity I've had to discuss it. But it's that mentality within industry, it's that mentality within the province that perpetuates this kind of problem And it leaves people my generation and younger absolutely infuriated, not just with older generations, but with our generation and our peers who are perpetuating the exact same mentality. And it's bad enough to be able to talk about it in these terms and to say that effectively Fern Gully, the last rainforest, is prophecy, but when you prophecy, but when you actually take it one step further and recognize that it's effectively documentary because of what was happening literally around the time or in the preceding decade prior to the release of that film with regards to what was happening with Shell in Ecuador, it's beyond heartbreaking. And it's that much more vile and disgusting for someone like our MLA in this riding to come out and say the things that she has said about old growth forests from a position of leadership, from a position that is meant to be informed and educated. That doesn't matter that she's an idiot. She was elected into power, and it is her duty. It's
Elected by idiots.
Well, I mean, it didn't take much sitting there and listening to her speak at the debate to figure out. It's like, there are people here that know what the fuck is that, and there are people who don't. And she was in the camp. I haven't got a fucking clue what the fuck. Yeah.
That's really unfortunate.
Well,
I missed it, and I heard that one quote about how old growth isn't like productive land,
yeah.
and I was just like, I'm sorry, but like you're trying to tell a room full of citizens that a robust, fire retardant, millennia's old ecosystem is not important when we've had seasons of wildfire, that literally have not stopped burning well into late fall and even early winter.
Like I said,
It's
the thing is, though, it all comes
stupid
down
in the
to
sense of Proverbs 12:1.
How does the province keep Dave's pub open?
How does what, sorry?
Giving me money.
How does Dave's pub stay open?
Because people,
You take forestry mining out of this community, and I don't care, you know, whether you're for or against it. Half the people living here now are gone.
so
Potentially it could become a retirement community.
Well,
That's a possibility, because there's a hospital, but,
because of a lot of NEP policies, and don't get me wrong, I voted NEP, but a lot of NEP policies are more protectionist. There's a reason Surge got it. There's a lot more people that are pro-job, pro-industry in North here, not just this town, than there are.
so here's the irony then.
it's a complete irony.
If we have a situation where there are jobs that could be provided for people in things like, I don't know, shelters, why would then the same community members advocating for jobs be against the creation of jobs, which would also improve conditions for people and even put them into a place where they could foster mentorship skills and where they could...
Because if you're 50 years old, and you got a yard full of logging equipment, and you've made a good living to this point, and you think, I don't care, I get 10 more years or less, and I sail off into the sunset. That's all people are looking at is their own.
It's also perspective.
I mean, that's the truth.
The guy that's arguing against the shelter is a Christian man. Right? Counts himself as a man of God. It's like,
It's not just one person.
it's not just one person, but I mean, you know, this is all, well, then there's the idiot thing. It's perspective. People don't have perspective. They're not looking at it like you said so eloquently. You know, here we are fighting to keep jobs in the north. Why would you be against this? Well,
Half these people argue against science. That's it to begin with. Most of them didn't want to wear a mask from COVID. Need I say more?
So, yeah, I mean, then you start getting into discourse about. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Do you live here?
I do. Yeah, I've been a member of the. I've been a resident of the valley for 9.5 years now.
You're familiar with Ron,
With the whole what? Sorry.
right? I say then you would be well familiar with local politics that goes on here.
Not really. No.
Well,
I mean, I understand that we have like one of the highest concentrations of churches in the province, but
more churches and schools. Isn't that
really,
Wow. Isn't that a dangerous thought?
well, more churches than schools, or more churches than publicly run schools that aren't funded by taxpayer dollars privately.
In schools, period.
Wow. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and denigrate any one particular method of worshiping or congregating or fostering community or building financial resilience within a community. And I think that that's exactly part of the strategy that's utilized to divide us, because we have so much more in common than we don't, and I think that this is really where the role of decolonizing comes into play, because it's like, if we keep yelling at each other, oh, that is a dope VW. If we keep yelling at each other, we're not going to accomplish anything. And everyone who is yelling at each other knows that that's the case. But we're not backing down from the same modes of thinking and the same modes of engagement. And I think that's part of why it's so encouraging to see what happened yesterday. But you know, I went down to Tent City after the meeting, because I wanted to give my condolences to the community for the loss of one of their community members as a result of exposure or exposure-related stressors, and also because I had some popcorn from the Telka Cole event that I wanted to share. And some of the stuff that I ended up learning was beyond heartbreaking, and it's stuff which, like, I don't even necessarily feel comfortable expressing in a public forum, whether to this device or to my peers in this room. But it basically traces back to promises that are made politically that come from systems of governance to two sides of the same coin of citizenry, and make those inextricably linked sides think that they're not on the same coin. And that is, at the very least, it's reprehensible. Just messaging, basically, to different demographics within society, and making promises of, hypothetically speaking, you know what, fuck it. If, hypothetically speaking, tents were provided by the town, and if, hypothetically speaking, at the exact same time there was a promise made of heaters being provided with those tents, and if, hypothetically speaking, there were never actually heaters provided for said tents, that would be pretty fucked up, to put it gently. And at the same time, when the town is also saying that they're doing due diligence and they're doing everything they can, but they're too afraid to rock the boat and actually hold provincial representatives accountable, that's what really gets to me. And and that's not even the whole of it. That's the worst part. That's not even the whole of it. I can't say that I have solutions to all of it, but it would start with some people being a little bit more forthwith with information and actions pursuant to said information. because it's kind of a trope in our society that politicians overpromise everything, but there's very little in the way of follow-up that's actually reasonable and follow-up that we deem reasonable. Just to be the bully in the pulpit for a little bit.
Rather than have a system. Hey, enough about politics, I'm done.
Was politics for you is only politics
Start? You don't have to do it all.
because of the privilege that you have, which insulates you from the ramifications of the real world.
I'm serious, believe me.
And
But
I don't say that as a critique of you specifically. I say that about the existence of that mentality sociolinguistically in our society.
Conversation where it's done.
It'd be nice if some folks could turn off freezing to death or sexual assault or childhood abuse or whatnot like that too. And I'm not saying that to be rude or churlish. It's
I'm very socially aware of it.
The fact that we're even allowed to have this conversation.
but 30 minutes is a lot. I understand.
No, but I mean, the fact that we're even allowed to have this conversation without some sort of censorship is either through the extreme, security or.
We censor ourselves these days.
To the extreme,
We don't have ice walking or
we don't have those
Yeah, it's true. Like when the freedom we had during COVID, all the people in the big city centers were complaining, and then people here were complaining, it's like, we have so much freedom for COVID. Yeah, a lot of that, sorry? Freedom. Oh, yeah, absolutely. We didn't get locked down anywhere near, much of a lot of Canada, a lot of people don't understand what a law actually is, and they don't. They were like, oh, that's not the law. It's like, no, that's what the law is, guys. They're just being asked to wear a mask. Yep.
Well, two things. People that are all over the map is marijuana products and alcohol.
And every time.
Okay.
Coffee too. And usually just have one in the morning.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah,
Hey,
you too.
By the way, I'm Edward.
William.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, Steve. Stay on top of that ministry report if they need it. Hold their feet to the fire.
It's the thing. I think, yeah, I won't interrupt any further. Thank you for your time.
It was good. I'm glad to hear somebody attended.
Good to see people engaged.
Somebody offended my life. It's, yeah, no, it's,
So you gonna?
I'm surprised.
When are you gonna do something?
Oh, I gotta listen to that thing, shoot. Excuse me.
So, yeah, hopefully you need it. Oh, yeah, they all went there. I know.
Oh, that's pretty good too.
Well, next week is in a then follow. And then, I think it was five.
I think it's something.
Set aside 10 grand. Whatever.
Basically.
Point.
Especially the problem next week. So they were worried, yeah, they were worried.
If you, yeah, other medical conditions overriding. That's why there's super cautious. There's
The option we could hear, the other option we do have is we can
So
just.
I don't see that there's
no,
basically.
And then we can run out all the. some, very concerned about pay, but there are some views on it.
Yeah. Why? So if all of our, I mean, I don't know, all of our fullbacks.
Sorry, finish this thing.
Unless you know what charge that is,
Not substantial. I mean, it would be nice to run kids, but it's really not a lot. So nice to have some camp stuff, but you know, we get the back.
she was
I don't know.
yeah, whatever I heard next week, we're gonna have more things,
Yep. And then
50%.
But they said, oh, 2 weeks.
Somebody already put in,
This week, and then,
back in 3 years. So we should probably 2 to 3.
so we won't need James and of course last much.
And then I gotta book up
Right.
Yeah.
next Tuesday.
Do one here.
We'll do. So that's 2 trips to Paris.
Well, I mean, you sound like cancer.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would.
Prince George, the
I was gonna say.
I would say if we need to brew a full batch, brew a full batch. Do that much. No starter. Something I do around. You know, I'm gonna go.
My brother.
Just back or stuff.
There's definitely something we can do. I was just looking at scheduling.
I'm not too sure what else. Otherwise, I'm not too sure what else we can do. Because we have to brew a full batch. Right?
Well, that's the thing, is like we don't actually have.
Basically, since.
So what's the advantage of us not doing a full batch then?
It gives Kansas a little bit more time to catch up. In 3 weeks, we grew and built packets.
Yeah.
And it's not, you don't have to cans, you can buy it for something.
Right.
January.
Yeah.
But then it takes a year.
well, they,
Yeah.
So it's easy to like, you know,
Everything I want to play on the wall is tentative.
these work more than playing head and down.
I want to be more attentive to everything than Chris said. You know, I don't want somebody to our whole busiest 2 summer months being very busy than January. So, I don't have high aspirations for definitely much more. Something good I can.
I think I told you that other day we were talking to a friend of mine, used to be in education.
After next week. It's really forget. I don't know quite often in September, and then in January, we wind up with
7 years.
years packed up and waiting for that.
And that's, when you think about it, that's one of the, talk to people about.
Yeah, the years we have, that'll be,
Yeah, let's come back to, well,
Hilarious.
Then
Unrelatable.
revisit the plan, except and your provincial plan is covered.
What I don't get is why a CEO
And I probably
would
need
sandbag and lowball the price of coal for coking
$40,000.
by over 50%,
So how are you gonna pay for it?
and then
Anyway, in the end, somehow.
after the fact explain that even the price of the highest quality coking coal
Doctors
wouldn't be commanded by the coal stores that we have here. And I'm fairly certain that this is the kind of insider information that is kept as proprietary in spite of being imperative technical information to resource extraction projects. But it gives people just enough edge in the global market.
But again,
And that's shitty.
our provincial plan is.
Thanks for joining us. All, however many of you.
It's pretty common.
I suspect there's at least one person listening synchronously, in spite of the fact that it says 0. Because I am, of course, an environmental terrorist, according to legislation passed in 2012 approximately by Prime Minister Stephen Harper. So, imagine being a terrorist for wanting to, like, advocate for
No,
waterways.
There was some other little perks.
That's crazy.
Like it would give you, and that was the local society, things like massage. And they would basically give you little tickets to take there, like a free massage or free counseling or free treatment for this. Years. And those are just.
I also, because of radical honesty, radical transformative honesty, I'm a little bit annoyed and perturbed that I wasn't told about the Thursday night and Friday morning meetings. Not to say that I could have necessarily made them, but
That's what I think.
would have been nice to have been given the opportunity, you know? Especially because it's community meetings, right? And as I said at the meeting in Houston on Friday, this entire catchment is just one big community.
Yeah. Well, that's
To be fair, the entire region is one big community.
bumping into each other on the street and coffee. That's how.
It's kind of
these
a-
things go.
Well, is being neighborly.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, you get something serious to
Missing out on 50% of what people have to say who are my neighbors,
or other costs.
that's absurd.
That's another thing. Keep a little.
Like, patently absurd.
Bank for the savings for stuff like that.
But, as with most things,
Credit scores, I mean,
the revolution churns.
taxes. I don't think the deduction kicks in after you spend 5,000.
3 or 3%.
Which, you're on the hook
And-
for the first year, I think.
the turtle moves. Slowly. But just as inevitable as resource extraction projects and their fuckery and terrible management and lies about corporate social responsibility, so too is there an inevitability of revolution. Because the people will only be downtrodden for so long. Which isn't to say that guillotines are the answer, because that's not the case. Neither are pitchforks or torches. But like, or Molotov cocktails. But it is to say that eventually people in positions of authority start to listen, instead of expediting literal Armageddon and hiding in their wonderful shelters that are underground. Oh, dope. So, you know.
And what's her?
Did y'all not watch Mr. Rogers or something?
Yeah, I mean,
Or like Sesame Street?
my sister.
Like what shared Anglo sphere experience from media did you not have that we had? I guess it's easy blaming things on childhood. It takes a little bit more complexity to recognize that a lot of this shit really starts to set in after adolescence and like post-neurological maturity. And I think that we really discount a lot of those scars that are left after the age of 25 to 27, depending. Excuse me. It's a good salad. Still eating it. Anyway. Maybe I'll even keep streaming at Kispiox. That'd be kind of cool. I'd have to gain consent from folks first, but I think I'd be able to swing it technologically, I guess. We'll see. Also,
So could the money.
preemptively, this is me working up the courage to approach the Roy Theater and ask them for their spare popcorn every night that they're open. Ooh, maybe I could work out a contract for the new owners that like carries over with the sale of the building. That'd be cool. Actually, that'd be really cool. I should work on that. I should draft that. I could draft that. It's like 600 words, if that. Less than 1,000.
No. Gage does funny things.
I could do the exact same thing with the slushy fund. Actually, they'd follow the exact same template. No, because it's different kinds of fiscal products. Well, fiscal products. Upper. Oh, today the weather is socked in, and Seedikai is not visible. But it's there. Behind the clouds. Just like hope.
I mean, that's what the system expects.
Ever present, looming in the background.
There, but you gotta-
Immutable.
But,
Shifting at a geological pace. Good old ominous positivity. Things will get better. It is inevitable.
So oh. What shall we listen to? Nope. Oh wow, that's not healthy.
The federal government, in order to create the conditions.
Everything we need.
Well, we'll see the decisions they're taking. But I underscore that when we speak to, with respect to Sidlisten, which is a multi-phase project or multi-aspect project, the very considerable strategy that becomes available in the Northwest Critical Conservation Corridor, including considerable conservation in the area as well. So it is linked. There are many parties, and all of those parties have to be taken. Sorry.
The Tyson project is a big move towards the national energy goal. But there's still a lot of tension between the BC Premier, Alberta, and others who oppose on energy policy. How do you intend to bring everyone to the same table to keep Canada's energy vision united?
I haven't been asked that one. We are, and I'm personally a big believer in cooperative federalism. The federal government has a role, the provinces have a role, First Nations, Indigenous peoples more broadly with the territories have central roles. We need to talk to each other. We need to understand each other's perspectives. We need to see where we can cooperate and build things. We need to acknowledge where we can't and not move forward. Part of what we're doing, and I'm very encouraged by the progress that's being made in BC, in Alberta. Yes, there are different opinions about certain things, but we continue to have those discussions. Is that it is showing the scale of opportunity and ambition in this country, not just for today, but for future generations. And it's that process that will continue to make progress. Talking about today. It's the proponents of those projects and their engagement. It's with the province of British Columbia. Obviously, it's with the federal government as well to understand those perspectives. If there's any accommodations that can be made for those perspectives, it creates a process that allows that to happen.
Question. There are some documents show the assets of the Sinus Air Engine will be owned by the U.S. company Western Air Engine. Why did you decided to prioritize an American-owned project? Thank you.
Well, there's three aspects to this project. There is the LNG liquefaction, what's called liquefaction or export facility, which will be
and
off
the pipeline,
Paris Island. That's the current plant.
It's all
There's
foreknown.
the pipeline, where there is and there's an associated transmission line that is independent of the northern North Coast transmission line as well. And there are different ownership structures for the various aspects of the project. All aspects of the project are necessary for the project to move forward. And in those regards, there are different ownership structures, as I say, including with significant indigenous ownership. And there is support that because they're connected, there is support. It's not universal, but there is support for the project. There is also, I'll just underscore, there are always also opportunities for adjustments for ownership structures if that is appropriate, and the federal government stands ready to facilitate those if that's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Do we have the last question? Just sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm Gatter from Dogwood News. Following up on this question. So, as it stands, Western LNG is the owner of Dixie Lissom's terminal, and it would be built in Korea with Korean and Chinese steel. So how much taxpayer money are we prepared to invest in a project that is American-owned and foreign-built?
There are different aspects of the project, as I said. There is the PRGT pipeline, which is necessary, which is Canadian-owned First Nation. Sorry, can I finish? There is the associated transmission line that comes in. There are structures that come with project that ensure that there's returns to taxpayers through the tax system as well. And the structure of the financing is a decision that we take with the full information of the project design. So that's part of, we answer that question with full information by doing the work, and that's what the referral to the major project office facilitates. Thank you.
Following Prime Minister Mark Carney's press conference near Terrace, a number of Indigenous leaders who oppose the project also spoke with reporters. Here is Kitnyao Chief Watakayet.
First, I'm from Kitnyao, and my territory is called Watakayet territory. I was looking for an opportunity to talk to the Prime Minister about the effects of LNG on our territory. The fact that we weren't consulted on what the impacts were going to be on the Cranberry and the Nass River, what effects there are going to be from the compressor station that's going to be on the territory. And we weren't consulted about what health impacts would be to Milo and to the Canada as a whole.
Which project, are you opposed to the project? Are you opposed to the North Coast Transmission Line or the solution?
I'm not opposed to industry. I am specifically opposed to Lissom's LNG because of the impacts that that pipeline will bring. You know, if we did projects with clean energy, I'd be all for it. But this one, with compressor stations and everything else that the government is planning, I'm opposed to this.
Are you concerned about the environment, like you were talking about environmental impact, or what is your main concern? Is it
It's the health impacts. The territory to government. What do you say? I wonder why the Mishka would want a pipeline through their territory. They're not even going to own any of it. This is all going to be owned by billionaires in the United States. And if you look at what's going on all over the world, you're starting to see the impacts to health, to the air, to the environment, our fish and wildlife that we depend on. I don't see any reason why they would do this, because they don't even own any of it. They do own part of the business, and they do own part of the business. No, they don't. No, they don't. You don't even have investors for this pipeline they're building. And if they do, they're all from the United States. Systems doesn't own anything. They get rent for Pierce Island. And that's it. And people can tell us otherwise, but we do our research. We do it. And we have to do it in order to protect our territory. What happens if the government goes forward with this? Well, you just heard the Prime Minister. I was impacted by this. Wilfred was impacted by this. But we didn't get the invitation because we're anti-pipeline. Minister Carney made sure he invited people that were going to back him up. Those people that are in it for the money and not for the environment. Because number one is protection of the environment. And he did not say anything today that would guarantee protection for my will. My house group, we are another clan, and that's our territory. They're going to transact, but he never mentioned that. He just mentioned he's going to build it like he owns it. Well, you can inform the Prime Minister he does not own it. And I'll keep fighting. I'm not going to stop. Because to me, it's clean air. And the health of my great-grandchildren.
How do you plan to fight this?
I'm going back on the ground. Whether I'm in 2 feet of snow, 10 feet of snow, doesn't matter. I'm going back on the ground. Because if the Canadians do not want to protect the environment and they don't want to protect health, then we'll do it. Simple as that. I'm blocking. Because there is not one level of government, whether it be British Columbia or Canada, that has come to talk to me. I did not give permission. I did not give consent for them to be here. That is a prime example of does. Prince Rupert is supposed to be a town. It has 2 ports. And yet Prince Rupert doesn't have clean water? isn't that more important to us as Canadians to protect water? People that live in Prince Rupert have to buy water. I spent 2 days there. And you go out and you buy a bottle of water for $3, $4. And Carney's talking about bulldozing through BC so he and his billionaires can get a little bit richer. You all stand here, you know, and you ask questions. I'd like to ask you all where you stand on energy. Because all of you should be protecting our environment, protecting the water, protecting the air. I'm not going to change my mind.
That was Gitnao Chief Watakayet Deborah Good speaking with reporters just outside of Terrace following Prime Minister Mark Carney's press conference where he announced that the Silisum's LNG terminal will now be fast-tracked under the federal government's new legislation. We will bring you more on this story as it develops. You've been listening to CICK News. If you have any hot tips or news stories you think we should cover, contact us at CICKnews@SmithersRadio.com or check us out on the web at SmithersRadio.com. CICK News has been made possible by the Government of Canada and the Community Radio Fund of Canada, the only organization mandated to financially supporting campus and community radio stations across Canada. You can also catch our fresh shows each week at theskinny.com or subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or wherever you find.
Work that trouble with a bigger grave digger, or Rick Moore sits in dig. Dig, dig, grave digger. Dig, grave digger, dig. That big old hole just keep getting bigger, so dig, grave digger, dig. Well, he don't mind the cadavers, he don't mind human remains. He got no problem sleeping at night, ain't nothing that a whiskey won't change. I asked about ghosts and spirits, I asked him if he ever got spooked. I asked him if he ever got haunted by souls, but he reckons that it buries them too. Now he ain't bothered by corpses, he'll plant stiffs all day. See, he on some kind of piecework deal, he get paid by the grave. Dig, dig, grave digger.
Better to have music than not, though, I guess.
Okay, I'm just
Oh, there it is.
gonna test this. How is it in your car? That's better? Okay. Thanks, Steve. Okay, I'm gonna turn my mic off and we'll turn it over. There it is. Hello. Hello, everybody. My name is Billy Kennedy. I'm program manager for the temporary winter shelter run by Bulkley Valley Harm Reduction.
And my name is Noah. I am one of the directors of Bulkley Valley Harm Reduction, and I've been helping to put together the temporary winter shelter project.
name is JF. I am a facility coordinator and helping out odds and ends on the project.
Of a whirlwind. We have been receiving a lot of questions about who we are and what this project is. So I wanted to share a little bit of context and background about who the Bulkley Valley Harm Reduction is, how we started, and what this project that is currently operating is. So we are a new organization. We came together formally. We formally incorporated last year in November. We're community members and citizens of the Bulkley Valley who care deeply about the community and love this area. We got to know each other through doing support for folks who are unhoused in our community. Some members of our society were working professionally in outreach and harm reduction or social services. Some people in our society were working other jobs and doing informal support for folks at the encampment regularly, which is how we got to know each other. And one of the things that brought us together was we started bringing meals outside of service hours when meals weren't available by already established services in town, and coordinating donation drives. And we got to know each other that way. And we thought that by formally incorporating, we could start to bring more structure to the work that we were already doing to support folks in our community. So we came together as a society and incorporated, and really were looking to collaborate on shared values and help to fill in the gaps. There are so many incredible organizations doing work in our communities.
From the hotel in the desk, and we said, "What's the matter, brother? Are you worried about your soul?" He said, "Better safe than sorry, boys. That's just how I roll." We hit the road, feeling cool as Crosby, Stills, and Nash, overflowing with the Spirit and the Bible on the dash. We pulled the whole thing over for the flashing red and blues. Police came to the window. We said, "Have you heard the news?" Not
fill in the gaps of services that currently exist. So after we incorporated, we began doing outreach support last winter to folks at the encampment, and were organizing meals and donation drives and getting people's feedback on what their needs were and how we could support. And that was a pretty hard winter. It was pretty tough for us to sit with seeing the effects that the extreme cold had on people that we got to know and really care about. A lot of cold-related injuries, a lot of people struggling with mental health that was worsened by the environmental conditions. So we came together in March, and personally I'd been working in, at the time I was working for Positive Living North, and we, so I had heard through my work in the community that BC Housing funds sometimes emergency weather response programs, and this wasn't currently operational in this capacity, and it is. And so we reached out to BC Housing and said, if we were to provide staffing and operational oversight, what would the process be like for running something like this? And I believe that was in April. And we started having conversations with Erin over at BC Housing about what program might be best suited for this, and temporary winter shelter was brought up. And so we began having early tentative conversations with certain town staff, and we reached out to other service providers in our community to say that we were interested in applying for an RFPQ, which is a pre-qualification to be certified as a shelter operator and receive funds from BC Housing. So we put in our application in early summer, I believe. We put in our application in the summer, and then during the qualification process, there are a lot of moving pieces. We were looking around town for suitable sites if this were to get approved, but everything was very hypothetical at that point. And we received qualification in October, and shortly thereafter, in mid-October, we received confirmation that funding would be allocated to this area, so we were eligible to operate a temporary winter shelter. So at the time, the only building that was suitable for this purpose, suitably zoned and available for lease, was the old fabrications building at 3892 3rd Avenue. So we secured a lease, continued talking to everyone that we'd been in discussion with over the summer, and said we have confirmation of funding, it's a green light, and we came together as a team to jump through all the necessary parts of the process to get the shelter up and operational. And as I guess you can tell, it was a very tight time frame. And so understanding all the moving parts that have been in the air, and a lot of the concerns and thoughts that people in the community have brought up to us has really helped us to solidify our model.
Stay with me through September, summer.
Team to jump through all the necessary parts of the process to get the shelter up and operational. That we have confirmation of funding, it's a green light, and we continued talking to everyone at 3892 3rd Avenue. So we secured a lease.
Don't drive like this.
Talking to everyone that we'd been in discussion with over the summer, and said we have confirmation of funding, it's a green light, and we came together as a team to jump through all the necessary parts of the process to get the shelter up and operational. And as I guess you can tell, it was a very tight time frame. And so understanding all the moving parts that have been in the air, and a lot of the concerns and thoughts that people in the community have brought up to us has really helped us to solidify our model and be really thorough with our planning process. And we finally opened our doors yesterday, and within 3 hours after opening our doors, our capacity was filled. And what was surprising was a lot of the folks who came to our doors were folks who are part of what's called the hidden homeless population. So people who often are missed in classic like reporting of homelessness numbers, people who were living in vehicles or camping alone, not at the encampment. So we've been pretty overwhelmed with the need that's out there right now, and we're doing what we can to provide beds and food and support and referral to other services. And everything has been running really smoothly so far, and we are really excited about the potential for connecting folks to support and meeting needs this winter. We are somewhat limited in capacity. Originally, our plan had been to provide 25 beds for the community, but due to the particular building and building code, for now we are only able to provide 10 beds. 8 beds and 2 staff in the building. There's a 10-person occupancy level in the building. Yes, so that is the background from our end of things. The community feedback is really important to us, and we've been responding to everybody who's reached out. we've been really touched by a lot of the community support and donations, and we've been really appreciating the concerns and feedback that we've gotten from other people in the community, and we're doing our best to mitigate all concerns directly and have constructive conversations around that. Thank you. Thanks, Billy. I just have one question, and that is if you don't mind just saying how big we had just talked about board of directors on the society, a little bit about the society. You mentioned it came into play about a year ago, and if you represent the entire society, or how many people are in the society, if you're able?
Sure. Our society is composed, we have 3 directors right now, myself, Stephanie, and Aoife, and we have, I think we are currently onboarding staff, but we have about 15 staff. We don't have a formal membership beyond our directors at this point, but that is something we would like to explore as a way to have more engagement within the society, but that obviously isn't something we've gotten around to yet because we are so new. Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it. And we will just go to our second delegation, who is representatives of BC Housing that are joining us virtually. Hopefully we can hear them. The next round of...
Thank you. Can you hear me, Madam Mayor?
Yeah. Yes, we can. We're adjusting the volume right now. Yep. Okay, thank you. I think that's been adjusted, and I invite you to introduce your team and go ahead with your presentation.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you this evening. I very much appreciate that. And so there's 3 of us from our BC Housing team tonight to present. First of all, there is myself. I am Terry Waterhouse. I'm the Regional Director for BC Housing in the Northern Region. I also have Erin Tull, who is a nonprofit portfolio manager with BC Housing, and she's responsible for the Smithers area, broader than Smithers, but includes Smithers, and she is our key liaison with the nonprofit organizations within Smithers. And the third individual is Daisy Stapleton, who's with us as well. She's a program specialist from our home office, and she works on homelessness programs across the province. And each of us will say a few words to try to provide some context for you. I thought it would be helpful to start with the territory acknowledgement as well, because we at BC Housing acknowledge with gratitude that the services we are discussing today will be teams, but also we work with outreach teams of the nonprofit partners and the municipalities to ensure that we understand the situation, the needs of homeless people on the ground, and we have created what's called a coordinated access program, so the outreach teams who have information about individuals needing housing can be placed within the resources in a community. So first of all, we start with homelessness outreach. We have coordinated access into, first of all, shelters. The end point into that housing continuum. And it continues along to provide housing with various forms of support services, into social housing where we subsidize the rent of individuals in public social housing, as well as tonight is the endpoint. How do we support people and communities, move people from homelessness into stable housing? And so from there, when we go on, we talk a little bit more specifically. I'm going to pass over to my colleague, Erin, to talk about the current facilities mix within Smithers and our future plans.
Hi, thank you, Terry. So yes, my name is Erin. I'm the nonprofit for culture. My office is located in Prince George. And so this slide here is an interactive map that we have on our BC Housing website. You can type in any community in the search bar and it'll bring up our properties. So here we wanted to point out that we currently have 22 units at Good Acre Place for supportive housing. 2 units are transformed into emergency shelter beds, 3 in each room, to give us a total of 6 shelter beds there. And then underway, we have our 37 units with Zelkant Housing Society. That is through the Indigenous Housing Fund, and we're looking at opening that in January of 2026.
Wow.
This map is updated quarterly on our website, and right now it's not showing Alfred Avenue, but just one block over from Goodacre Place is where Alfred Avenue will be. That will have 40 supportive housing and 20 shelter beds. And I'm going to move this over to Daisy to speak about the emergency shelter program.
Thank you, Erin. Hello, everyone. My name is Shelter Piece, which is we are here talking about the winter shelter in your town. We wanted to highlight that in the winter time, typically we will fund for either overnight operation of 12 hours or up to 24 hours. In this case, you have the 24-hour operations, which is great that folks don't have to leave the building in the morning. Generally speaking, in the shelter programs, we would support what we call essential services, that is shelter stays, hygiene, meals. If there is resources available, we also fund what we call gateway services. What this means is that caseworkers can connect with folks staying at shelters to work on other aspects, including the potential of finding appropriate housing or applying for pension forms, or fill out pension forms, or other needs. Generally speaking, for temporary winter shelter, we're looking at each year reviewing the availability of site, the availability of funding. So the agreement or the contract we can enter into every year. So every year we're looking into availability, and then accordingly we'll enter into an agreement. Next slide, please, Erin. The winter season for us generally is from October 1 until April 30th. During this time frame, some shelters might be open in October or in October or a little bit later. Some of the shelters will also maybe closing at end of March or end of April. The typical funding is for staffing, for cleaning, for food.
The degree of excitement that is shared by those who are going to be served by this unit is unfathomable, I think, to most people. And I'm so happy to know that it's gone through. There was something else I was going to say which actually came after that, and I was afraid that I was going to forget what I just said, but I ended up remembering what I just said, but it unfortunately wiped the other thing. And I know that if I had said the other thing that came after what I initially, which I just shared, I probably would have forgotten that too. So I'm going to shut up so I can get my thoughts back on track.
and for hygiene. However, the capital cost, such as a large renovation of this temporary space, is not included. And overall, funding availability for temporary shelter is limited, and each season will have to review that accordingly. In terms of timeline, I'd like to share that we always encouraging our nonprofit partners to discuss potentials with BC Housing as soon as possible. We hope that the nonprofits and other partners can connect with BC Housing at least by the end of May to let us know of your progress, let us know of if you find a site, if you have a provider, if you have working on permit of the space. This will help BC Housing internal teams to prepare documents, reports, in order for our senior leadership to make decisions on viable sites. And of course, during the winter time, from October to end of April, shelters open at different times, depending on a number of operational factors.
So here we have the service standards for the specific Bulkley Valley Harm Reduction Temp Winter Shelter site. BC Housing enters into operating agreements with all of our providers for all of our projects, and they range, they're quite lengthy and involved, but here are some of the items that we wanted to point out that will be the responsibility of Bulkley Valley Harm Reduction Society. So operating from November 16th up to March 31st with funding for up to 10 beds. They will have funding for two trained staff on site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and provide 2 nutritious meals per day, plus personal hygiene items. They will also have a secure storage area for clients' belongings, as well as harm reduction supplies. This staff will aid in obtaining appropriate housing, including referrals and assistance for completing housing applications, collaborate with outreach workers in the community to support clients in obtaining housing through BC Housing's coordinated access and assessment table, and they will help clients with referrals to services and resources, including medical, mental health, alcohol and drug treatment, employment services, life skills, training, and cultural supports.
Oh, yeah.
And then, Terry, I'll let you close.
That's also what folks are really stoked on.
Yes, and in closing then, to wrap it up, there are 3 types of stakeholders that are involved in bringing temporary winter shelters on board. First of all, the starting point, as we've discussed, is the nonprofit organization is required to bring proposals forward to BC Housing, including confirmed sites,
life skills, and employment. Folks who are housing insecure, they also want to pay it forward too, right? Like they're human. They respect and appreciate the community that they live in, and it's something where for them to be able to have some degree of income and to be able to like pool their resources and help each other out is such an exciting prospect that I genuinely believe that they can do things that proportionally with regards to their income that other demographics within Smithers could never even begin to contemplate.
And what their estimated budget will be. At the same time, the nonprofit operator is required to work with the municipality to secure all necessary operational permits and authorities for operation of the temporary winter shelter. And then the role that we play is that we review the proposal viability, We negotiate the budgets, determine what are fundable and allowed expenses with those providers, and confirm that funding is available. And we also have all the providers in a community go through a rigorous request for pre-qualification process. So every provider that is contracted with us has not only submitted a proposal that's been accepted, but they also pre-qualified as meeting our criteria as an operator. And then, as Aaron said, once all that is put in place, it's formalized with an operating agreement which outlines what those service standards are. And then throughout the season, while the facility is operational, our staff will liaise with the stakeholders, with both the municipality and the nonprofit as required, and Aaron's team provides oversight with the organization to ensure that our service standards are being met through the duration of operations. And so that wraps up our presentation. Again, I'd just like to thank you very much for the time to present this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry and Aaron and Daisy. Appreciate you joining us here this evening. So we are going to move to the part of the evening that most of you, I think, are interested in, which is the public comment period. So just as a reminder, this meeting is for information. Council won't be making any decisions this night. This evening, there are no decisions for us to vote on. You've heard from the delegations, so now it's going to be our turn to listen to you. And before we begin, just some things to think about. First of all, this is a space for respectful dialogue. I invite you to assume the best of those with views different than yours. Allow others to speak without interruption. All of us in this room are neighbors with good intentions, so let's just show each other grace. If we can't have respectful discourse, I do reserve the right as chair to halt the meeting. Our intention is that we will listen to each other, to understand, and to continue working together. At this point, I'm going to ask Mr. Schroeder to look at the speakers list and just to invite people how they're going to be able to participate. Mr. Schroeder.
Thank you very much, Mayor Atchell. So briefly to go, 1 minute left on your time. The red card means that you're at the end of your time. If you do get to the end of your time and you still have things to say, please try to conclude your remarks as quickly as possible. We will give you a couple of seconds of leeway. I will note that staff have created a speakers list. Many of you were asked when you first arrived this evening if you were interested in participating. If you do wish to participate and you just haven't registered yourself, please go speak with staff at the back of the building and they will be able to give you a hand, get you on that list, and then we will get you up to the microphone in a few moments here. In terms of the calling speakers, I will call this first speaker to the mic and then identify the next speaker so that they can get themselves prepared. And for this evening, our first speaker will be Mr. Kevin Tyler, and our second speaker will be Lee Cornu. Kevin, if you could please approach the mic. Thank you.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me? Okay. I'm representing Smithers Community